we posted. All right, well, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Steve, you missed something.
Did I? I'm reading it. We'll move on to please join me in the Scout oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty, to guard my country, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And yes, I know I missed the Scout law. And so speaking of the Scout law, please join me. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, reverent. Thank you. So we're very happy to have with us tonight John Judge, who's the Spirit of Adventure Council new executive, CEO. Let's go around the table, so to speak, and introduce ourselves. I'll start with you, Ron Hansen. He's our roundtable commissioner.
Sure. Hi, John. Ron Hansen. I met you. You were the first district executive I met when I became Scoutmaster of Troop 109 in Chelsea.
Wow, awesome.
Talk about history, yeah. And I served there for many years. Unfortunately, the pandemic killed our troop, and hopefully we can get it reestablished at some point. But a couple problems. One of them, of course, being Catholic Church being sort of reluctant about giving charters. That was the proximal cause of the end.
Were you at St. Rose with Ernie Giordana?
No, we were in Our Lady of Grace with Manny Strasburger and John Yo, that group.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sure.
Yeah. Long time ago. Remember seeing it Mass Jam 94 or something.
Yeah.
Just like it was yesterday.
Exactly. It goes by fast. Yeah.
Why don't we move on to our district advancement chairman, John Tumlin.
Hi, John. I'm John.
Hi, John.
I'm talking to myself. I'm the district advancement chair. So I specialize in making kids Eagle Scouts.
Great.
I have a great team that works with me. Huh?
I like your Peru, Maine sign.
That's Peru, Massachusetts.
Oh, there's a Peru, Massachusetts. Okay.
Yeah, you can just see
with all the snow. I assumed it was Maine. Yeah.
You can just
no,
see.
My son went to school in Westfield, and it was like 20 miles up the road. So we went up the road to get a picture taken.
Oh, okay.
Peru.
This is John's second turn as district advancement chair.
Wow, thank you, John.
Well, I'm trying to give it away. Anybody who wants it, I'll be happy to give it to them. No, I like what I'm doing. Absolutely.
Let's go on to Mr. Curran, our commissioner and our training chair.
Hi there, Joe Curran. I apologize that I literally do not, my camera isn't broken, but it will not connect to Zoom. I do not, someone come fix this. Art, you seem like the kind of guy who might know how to do it. I'm a district training chairman. I serve as a unit commissioner. I'm with a Sea Scout ship out of Webster, Mass. And I have no memories of Mass Jam 94 because I believe I was 5 at the time.
And Joe, how many Sea Scouts do you have?
We just chartered. This is out of Hardin, New England. So we just chartered with 6.
Okay, great.
Let's move on to Ken Fung, our unit commissioner.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Fung. I hold like 4 hats currently. I am a assistant district commissioner for Sons of Liberty. I'm the district commissioner for Flintlock District. I am a committee member for Troop 615 out of Melrose, and I am the associate advisor out of Crew 357.
Wow. Thank you.
And,
How is the Commissioner Corps going, Ken? Are you getting new recruits, new people stepping forward, or?
It's kind of tough. Sons of Liberty, I think we only have 8 or 6. We just picked up one. Actually, we've just picked up 2 this year. And I almost think there's a third one that's being headhunted.
Oh, okay.
Art Kinzinger, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Art Kinzinger, 2304 Belmont. Been Scoutmaster of a girls' troop since April of 2019. Just a week and a half ago, a new Scoutmaster took over, so I'm in an assistant role right now. I was going to stick around through June in that role, but multiple family issues are kind of driving me to kind of pass that baton sooner than I was originally planning. And I have not been to Mass Jam, but I have been I've coordinated and collected all the money and sent it in twice now, this fall and 5 years ago. And it's like, I don't know, I'm doing that wrong. So,
Thanks, Art. And so who took over? Was it somebody that was an assistant last year, or how did they?
Yeah, her name's Shilpa Lawande, and her daughter joined in the springtime. Her husband is a pack leader or pack master, or whatever, cub master, over in the 377, and he'd been in that role prior to that when we had 2 cub packs. Post pandemic, we're coming out with 1 cub pack right now, at least for now. We'll see how big it gets and see what happens. So I was trying to hold off so that they didn't end up with a cub master and a scout master in the same family, but unfortunately that's kind of where they are right now. But a very outdoor family. So I think it'll be good for the troop.
Right.
I think also just having the female leadership, I'm hoping that'll be huge, but not a obviously not a scout background from a youth perspective, since girls have only been in the last few years, but yeah, she's yeah, I think she'll do a great job.
That's great.
And last but not least, Henrik Bausch, who's also from 304 Belmont on the boys' troop.
Thanks, Steve. I am, Henrik Borge. I'm with Troop 304 Belmont. I'm currently the outdoor activities coordinator. I was Scoutmaster from 2018 to just through the pandemic, 2021. And I've been to Mass Jam thanks to Art's diligent paperwork registration in 2018. That was an awesome trip, and I know the Scouts had a great time this past Mass Jam as well. That's what I've done. I've had the opportunity to go to Philmont and various summer camps as well. So that's what I do.
Great.
My son has aged out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you all for your work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I think everybody here probably knows that John had a background of a good 10 years as CEO at Appalachian Mountain Club and did tremendous work over there, and spent some time at the trustees of reservations also, and is an Eagle Scout from was it the Boston Council at the time?
Yes. Yeah.
The Boston Council, before the merger with Minuteman.
Oh, it's got to be Greater Boston Council, right? Boston Council was gone in the 50s.
Boston Council was there when.
That's a good question, Joe. I thought we were Boston Council when I started off, but maybe you're right. Yeah.
Read Mike Piazza, he could tell us.
That's true.
Well, the merger with Minuteman was around 1993, I think. So
that's right.
But John, if you would let us know about your your thought process here as CEO, what you see as, immediate situation, where if things are evolving for you, where your priorities lie, what your thoughts are coming into this situation. We're glad to have you and want to know what's on your mind.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I've been really lucky to have had a lot of great nonprofit and other leadership experiences, and scouting, of course, was foundational for that. I look at scouting today and think, it is needed more than ever before. The average young person is spending about 5 hours in front of screens these days, and almost everybody, I've been in the job for about 3.5 weeks, and almost everybody that I meet with talks about the anxiety and the loneliness that a lot of these young people are experiencing. And then, quite frankly, the relationship with nature just isn't there like it used to be. So I think, us restoring the trust in the program, making sure that it's a safe, fun experience, continuing to grow the ladders from Cub Scouts to Scouts BSA to venturing and exploring. How are we, making sure that we have that breadth of quality programs, and really reinforcing what we all know. This is the best youth leadership development program, in America, and we've got to get the word out there. People are craving community, and social media doesn't do it. That doesn't qualify as community. So what are we doing to kind of engage our young people anew? So part of my job is going to make sure that we do a better job supporting all of you, get the word out about the opportunities that scouting has, expand in communities where we do have scout troops and scout packs, Cub packs, but also go to places that don't have Cub packs or scout troops anymore, and just making sure that we provide the access and the welcome that scouting can have in these different communities that don't have scouting now. So in a nutshell, thinking about leadership development, a reconnection with the outdoors, lifelong outdoor connections, this ethos of citizen service. Service is, of course, so fundamental to scouting, and then building community and reconnecting young people to not only the scouting community, but the communities in which they live. So I think we have terrific opportunities, and we can answer a lot of the things that are going on these days, the challenges that young people are experiencing, and really provide them with a chance to better understand themselves and then give back to their community as well. So again, it's been 3.5 weeks. It's been a lot of fun going around meeting folks. I've been kind of in a listening mode right now, hearing what all of you have to say. But I'd love, Steve, to hear about, where you and other volunteer leaders of Sons of Liberty think we should be putting our focus, and then maybe where the opportunities are and where the challenges are as well.
Well, thank you, John. I'll take the advantage of the opportunity to go first, but then I think it would be great to have my friends here chime in with their, response to your question there about, where we think that we should be putting our energies. I'll just start off by, saying when my dad joined scouting in Brooklyn in 1939 at the age of 12, you know, a lot of the messaging in those days was to get kids out of the city and into the woods, into the natural environment. And I think today the message is similar, but obviously different given our times. It's to get kids away from their screens and into the natural environment. I know there's been there was an article in Scouting Magazine, you know, a number of years ago talking about some article that I think a physician had written about the benefits of being outdoors and actually physically broadening your field of view as opposed to watching a screen, which tends to narrow your field of view or certainly your attention span to a more narrow focus. And I think given the social pressures and cultural pressures on kids today, young children as well as teenagers, that the scouting environment with a group of youth supporting each other, learning leadership, developing skills that generate self-esteem, confidence, and teamwork, where youth are trusted to make leadership decisions for themselves under, you know, guidance and leadership, of course, from adults, is really a prescription that kids today, you know, need. I think that from a professional point of view, we need the resources of the professional scouting community to do the footwork in the community of developing opportunities at youth-facing organizations. You know, any organization that has a youth program, we should be knocking on their doors and coordinating with them and seeing if there's an opportunity for them to host a pack or a troop or a crew or any of our other types of programs, and depending on population and other factors in the community, maybe it's just another resource for generating, you know, scouts to join existing units rather than starting a new one. But over time, you know, hopefully the numbers would grow and then new units would come. But initially, you know, I'm thinking, I don't know what attempts have ever been made and what the posture of, say, the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA's are. You know, perhaps they're not interested in a partnership, but maybe they are on a programmatic level. You know, maybe they're not interested in hosting units, but maybe they're interested in partnering on a programmatic level that would add value to their activities as well as to ours. So, but the footwork, you know, needs to come from the professional staff, because it's time that the amateurs, those of us, the volunteers, I should say, don't really have the time resource to invest in spending that, you know, that energy to, especially unit level people, they don't have the time to do that outreach. But district staff, council staff, I think that would be a great use of time. So I mean, you can respond if you want to. Otherwise, we'll pass the baton to any of my colleagues here who would like to speak up. Henrik and Art, I know you guys are not short for words. You must have thoughts about where you know, how to respond to John in terms of what the council can do to create opportunities.
Steve, can I chime in?
Go right ahead.
You know, John, I think in 2024, the best thing we can do for youth is to introduce them to the natural world. That if we can get the excitement that I see in you know, my grandchild who's, you know, 8, about rocks and the things he finds outside in the woods, we can inculcate that in kids. That's going to be the thing which will make them into active participating citizens when they realize, you know, what can be done for the environment, how can we help? The kind of outreach that AMC does actually, you know, to get people to see what's out there, see the beauty of it all, and let it become part of their ethos. This is something we've got to protect, especially here in New England, where we're looking at the crowding.
Okay, anybody else? Henrik or Art, Joe, Ken, John?
Yeah, it's Henrik here.
Go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah, muted.
Think you thought you were on mute. There you go.
There it goes.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm driving, so it's a little tappy here. Onto the mobile phone. I do think that, you know, making friendships indoors, outdoors, making them person to person and going through difficult things, making your own decisions, having that freedom to do it your way, as an 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, I think is unique in what the scouting program offers. I do think getting outdoors is very, very exciting, and showing them new limits. Cold weather camping, which is today's theme, for example, really starts with, oh my goodness, nobody can camp in 30 degrees or something like that. And you're out in 20, you're out in 10, and the limit just is moved further and further away. So that, I think, is a fantastic program we have, unique in many ways. If we could also advertise that scouting is anything you want it to be, meaning if you play soccer, you chase the ball, that's what you do, and you practice to run faster to chase the ball, etc. In scouting, you have also all these many amazing merit badges that, if we could articulate it better what scouting is, because when you come into scouting, it's difficult if you've never been a scout yourself to understand what it is. It's a framework essentially to do whatever you would like to do. It's not 100% true, but there is even, you know, merit badge. There's a dentistry merit badge. I'm not sure how many does that. There is plumbing. There is fingerprinting. There is all these other opportunities. So if we could find a way to communicate that scouting has all these many things to offer, in addition to what many people that wasn't in scouting might think of it. And it's like, well, we tie knots and start fires or something to that effect. We do many more things. So I think to connect to people that were never a scout, we need to find a way to articulate why this is important. In the first instance, to the parents, but then as the kids get older and start to influence decisions more themselves, you know, articulated to the scouts as well, in some sort of. So there are two messages there. There's one to the parents, which is the Cub Scout age essentially, and then troop age, where the scouts or the youth has more input themselves. And that's just my reaction to the conversation here. And I'll go on mute again.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, I would say that you're just thinking about what we do for like summer camp. We were a TL store troop for many years. Parker Mountain before that, based on some signage in our old scout closet. But now we've been at Treasure Valley for the last 3 years, with the aggregate 1 year. So certainly other council troops out that direction. But you know, that's one of the things I guess I've struggled with, is the fact that, you know, we've lost some sense of community within the council by giving up the scout camp, and I realize that's a financial model, so it is good to have some things that are you know, council events. I know Steve, you and others were trying to get even a district event together, and we had the last May, and then we also the Klondike Derby last February. So there's, you know, provide a little bit of that. We had 100 years with a charter organization, Belmont Watertown United Methodist, and so unfortunately, we got caught up in the loss of charter organization, moving to a facility use agreement, but then also the the church is selling the building. So we've now transitioned over to a different church, and still trying to get the charter straightened out, but hopefully that'll be done sometime. But it just seems like a hurdle that is kind of unusual to youth organizations, or unusual with respect to other youth organizations. And I know before being in a Scouts BSA girls troop, my daughter was a Girl Scout when she was younger, and you know, it was sort of it seemed like that was a lot less formal. You know, kind of, you know, you incorporated a troop, it met at people's houses or whatever, and so I don't know whether the charter organization is something that's still has value going forward. Certainly, you want some type of a relationship there, but it seems to be the source of some trouble. And I'm guessing it probably dated back to some early days in scouting, and I think with the Mormons, it kind of based on some reading there to be able to have somewhat independent control of the program. But I think maybe maybe that's something that scouting could do away with. That might help us a little bit in some of those hurdles. I don't know. You still need a place to meet and all. You still want a good relationship. So it's and the council's done a really nice job of picking up in the middle and kind of tying us over, and being our charter organization for recently. One of the things it's also kind of a bigger picture than just here is like now seeing that we have 14 out of 21 merit badges for Eagle are required. And I was hearing these opportunities about, going ahead and exploring so much and, all the different merit badges and all, but the reality is you get a few summer camp badges under your belt, and then you're into a kind of working those 14 badges. And I wonder as a program whether or not we could do some level of consolidation of what I call the 5 C's, the 4 citizenships and communications. Could that be 2 or 3 badges or something, and kind of open up that field again to explore other areas more, and especially things like, certainly things like citizenship in the nation are really important. But once you've done your 8th grade civics class, it's pretty much just filling out the paperwork practically and talking to your counselor, right? I mean, you've already gone through it. You probably even visited a location on a field trip, and so that seems like one that could be, yes, it's important, but seems like there's not a not a lot of value added at the end of the day. I don't think the scouts come out saying, gee, I learned something new by taking that badge. But yeah, I mean, we're thankful to be on this side of the pandemic. It was certainly and I haven't looked at our exact numbers, but I think we seem to be doing pretty solid at the Scouts BSA unit, and the Cubs seem to be recovering some from what I hear. I think personally, I'd like to see, even though we have what it feels to be like somewhat close ties between our Cub unit and our Scout unit, we also seem like we're pretty distant, and that's not a council issue. It's just kind of like, but trying to figure out how we do a better job there locally. It's probably enough rambling.
Thanks, Art.
Thank
I
you.
will note that we're at 10 past 8. And if somebody has a specific thought they want to communicate, I want to give them an opportunity to do that. Otherwise, I think we should move forward with our roundtable agenda.
Yeah.
So if anybody, has a specific thought they want to share. Yes, no? Okay, so let's move on with our agenda. John,
Okay, thank you,
want to
Steve. Thanks
respond to
for
any of that?
all the ideas too. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. If you want to respond to any of that, go right ahead.
Okay, I just quickly, I agree with the Scout Cub unit distance thing, Art. It's in my hometown, I'm the Cub master, and the troop, I've said a couple times, I said, look, we're your source of scouts, and you kind of give us the Heisman, so there could be a wonderful opportunity there, including on the den chief side and so on. So I agree with you. Some great, on the nature connections, making friends, scouting that can be anything. And then, the footwork piece. It's interesting, the 14 out of 21 Eagle badges, and opening that up more so people have, more choice and more chances to explore. But thank you for those ideas, and we're going to continue to work to modernize the back end, and who knows what happens with the chartering process, what the next iteration is. But I think if we can modernize more and make it more intuitive and easier for you all, including a digital framework that we can send to new leaders so that they can plug and play in terms of their agendas. I'm thinking about Cub leaders in particular. But thank you for these ideas. Good ideas.
You're welcome.
John, can I ask a question?
Oh,
What are those pictures behind you?
These?
Yeah.
It's just a moss thing. My wife, I asked her to buy these frames, and then we got the moss at Michael's, and I tried to layer it like almost like a mountain scene. I don't know if you can.
That's what I was looking, like a topographical map. I'm looking at that saying, whoa, that's pretty cool.
yeah, they're not photos. That's actually
That's live, yeah.
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 You can put your hand right into it. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Thanks. It took me a while. She didn't know what I was doing until it was finished, and she was like, oh, okay.
I've seen the TripAdvisor building on 128-95 South. I don't know what city it's in, maybe Needham. They have a huge atrium in their building. That's where I got my first COVID shot. And when you go in there, they have this huge atrium with a wall that looked like that from, like 3-4 stories high. It was pretty awesome.
Oh, wow.
Ron, let's move forward with our roundtable agenda. If I can ask you, you should be able to share your screen to run the PowerPoint.
I'll try it. Now, how can I?
While you're doing that, I'm going to be here, but I'm going to shut my video off just because there's going to be a lot of motion in the background here.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Ron, is it the same as that last?
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
All right.
Okay. Steve, the first slide is yours.
Oh, yes. Okay. So
You have some information from John Bowl too?
I don't have any info from John Bull, but I do from John Pleva.
Okay.
Who customarily makes an appearance, but he's got a lot going on. And just quickly, what he wanted me to mention was that it's basically last call for registration for the Eagle dinner. Tomorrow, the 15th, is when the registration closes. So if you'd like to attend, or if you have parents of Eagle Scouts in your unit, please prompt them, otherwise it'll be too late. I know I'm unable to attend myself, but I did donate as a sponsor, an Eagle sponsor for the dinner. And of course, as we know, we need to keep pressing on charters. We're collectively doing better than last year, which is good to hear as a council. But unfortunately, I can tell you that Sons of Liberty is behind the other districts. And Ken, I can see that you had your hand raised. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, just as an FYI, first I gotta find where I put the thing. We are currently at where is it? 7 units have not even started. 13 units are currently at level 1, and 12 units are already at council, waiting for review, and 5 have been pre-posted, meaning they're clean and ready to post as soon as Jan 1 rolls through. So roughly we're looking at 20 units that are still in the process.
Which is about 2/3 of the units in that district. We've got somewhere around 36 units, I believe.
37.
So, so I know that the commissioners have been doing outreach, and at our district meeting on Thursday, I volunteered, to make some phone calls if Mr. Bull needed me to. So obviously, it's something that we struggle with every year, but the more we can encourage folks to work faster, and I think the important note that John mentioned, Mr. Plever mentioned, is that the online rechartering system is going to change on March 1st, 2024. So it's really imperative that units get things done as quickly as they can on time, or certainly not to drag it out in an ugly kind of way, because goodness knows what's going to happen on March 1st, 2024, and that could cause real complications if units have dragged their feet that long, which has been known to happen, sadly. Also next year, 2024, there's effective June 1st, the Cub Scout program is having an overhaul. And the highlights that Mr. Plever mentioned is that every rank or every den will have a Bobcat requirement, which is age appropriate to that den. So, lions and bears, wolves, presumably even Webelos will have a Bobcat requirement appropriate to their age group.
So when would they become Bobcats at that point?
They always have to do Bobcat no matter what, and each rank has a different take on what the rank will be for them.
Yeah, so essentially Bobcat stops being a rank and starts being a belt loop or an adventure pin or whatever their thing that they do is.
So if you have more detailed questions, we should look at the requirements separately. I don't think any of us here are really prepared to go into detail on it, but it's certainly something to look into. Maybe we can, Ron, put that on a future roundtable agenda, what the Webelos changes are going to be. And Webelos, I said Webelos, Cub Scout changes are going to be. Webelos will be its own rank, which I think everybody thinks of it now, but Arrow of Light will become, and they're using the phrase rank, which I don't understand, because normally we think of cubs in dens, Webelo dens, but John's using the term rank. The Webelos will be its own rank. Arrow of Light will be its own rank. So whatever the word rank means, that Webelos and Arrow of Light will be treated separately, presumably 4th grade and 5th grade separately.
Correct.
And this will be effective June 1st. There'll be a periodic rollout, and they don't want us to switch over prematurely or early to the program. People need to wait and do the rollout as prescribed at each stage of it. Otherwise, it'll create complications. So those are the announcements from John Pleva. From me, from the district chair, just to put on your calendar, we have our district annual meeting and recognition dinner set for April 8th, which is a Monday night, and it will be at the First Baptist Church in Arlington on Mass Ave. The district kickoff, the program kickoff will be May 9th, which is a Thursday. And Ron, you may recall you and I spoke about using the roundtable night, the second Thursday, as the program kickoff night. We're also working on an IOLS course, Introduction to Outdoor Leadership Skills, for the weekend of June 8 and 9, 2024, of course, which will be held at Camp Sayre, New England Base Camp. We've reserved a cabin and tent site, and we've organized our faculty with instructors for the variety of skills, plus our troop guides and support staff. In February, late February, we'll start training with the staff, and in between, we'll submit a budget to the council and do some additional planning. So we're well on the way to getting that program off the ground. Mr. Bowl wasn't able to make the meeting tonight, and so sadly I don't have a report from him other than that the commissioners are working on the rechartering effort. So with that, I'll kick it back to you, Ron.
Thank you, Steve. We have an announcement. Steve Gilligan asked me to include this to make leaders and scouts aware of the Order of the Arrow, National Order of the Arrow Conference, which is going to happen this summer, July 28th to August 10th. There's a nice slide presentation. I've got the link on the bottom of the slide to what goes on at NOAC. And from what I understand, it's going to be an interesting tour, which in addition to the conference will include a trip to the Air Force Academy, Philmont, and one of the national parks. So it'd be quite an interesting experience for scouts. And encourage any of your scouts who are members of the Order of the Arrow to consider applying to do this trip. Steve, have you ever gone to one of these?
No, I've never been to a NOAC.
Yeah, I don't haven't either. So I secondhand information.
Yeah, it's kind of like Jamboree, but AP Jamboree, because you're at a college, you're in college dorms, and you have sort of a schedule almost of classes. There are sort of leadership trainings. Think of it like a week of summer camp, but instead of merit badges, you're working on leadership training. Instead of patrol activities, you're doing things with your lodge, with your chapter. And then there's a bunch of also individual fun things to be doing. So NOAC, definitely a great opportunity for anyone who is in the OA and wants to kill a couple weeks in the Western US next summer.
So this is any member of the OAs can apply, not just the leadership positions.
Nope. It is it's just a thing that all airmen are welcome to attend.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Okay. So really the major topic has to do with winter camping. How do you camp when the weather gets cold? And I know we're in New England, so we kind of expect that. And one of the things I found on the BSA website was this notion about to keep warm, remember cold. Cold, the acronym C for clean, keeping the insulation dry and fluffy. Overheating, adjusting your layers to balance heat loss and exertion. Stay hydrated. That's something I don't think we emphasize as enough. We talk about hydration in the summer, but it's just as important in cold weather. Loose layers, dress in loose layers that do not impede circulation. This one, I know a scout who wore a pair of boots that were 1 year old, and needless to say, it impeded circulation to his feet, making him quite uncomfortable. And dry, keep the clothes dry. Avoid cotton. We all know that saying, cotton kills. And adjust the layers to allow moisture to escape. We talk a lot.
I'll chime in.
Yep.
Probably more than a decade ago, when I was scoutmaster, we were at a Klondike Derby, and I had 3 different kids go to the first aid station because of dehydration. And it took me by surprise. I didn't quite recognize, what the symptoms were. They had nausea, and I didn't recognize what was happening, and I was a bit distracted trying to get everybody ready for the Grand Klondike race, and I sent them to to the first aid station. Turns out they really were just dehydrated, and all they needed to do was to take in, and they weren't that severe, they just needed to take in some liquids. The kids don't even think about, they're cold, and they don't think about drinking water, on any sort of regular basis as they would in the summertime.
Remember, as you exhale, you are shedding moisture.
You see the steam coming out of your mouth? That's moisture escaping.
That's right. And then the other thing, which is, I think we have to, the folks who are here tonight are Scouts BSA leaders primarily, but to remember, especially with the emphasis on cubs being more involved in camping, small people lose heat more rapidly than larger people. It works for all kinds of mammals, including us. As you probably have gotten these emails from the BSA about, all these issues about safety in winter activities, planning outdoor activities. And so it's obviously something that the organization is concerned about. And I don't know whether that's because most of the country, a lot of places don't experience cold. They think they're winter camping and it's 40 degrees out. Whereas here we are used to camping in much colder conditions. So here's a question for the group. 45 degrees Fahrenheit, 15-mile-an-hour winds with gusts. Is this weather for hypothermia? John, Steve?
Absolutely.
Right. Why?
Oh, it's wind. The wind.
There's no snow on the ground. Come on, guys.
If you get a little moist and wet, it's just gonna, it's like putting a fan in front of your food or blowing on your food, like the difference versus letting it sit. It's, yes.
Yeah.
You're losing heat so much faster.
And it's, go ahead. I'm sorry. I think that's the reason why, when people look at the statistics in wilderness medicine, it's probably the leading cause of evacuations, emergencies, and searches, cases of hypothermia. And this pleasant fall afternoon was exactly the kind of thing where that could occur. And, the reason, think about.
Sorry to interrupt. Does anybody know offhand what with the wind chill factor, in that last slide, what would the temperature feel like with wind chill? What did you say? 15 miles per hour wind at 45 degrees. What would the temperature feel like? I don't know offhand.
It would feel like it's in the 30s.
So close to freezing.
Yeah, close to freezing. Yeah. Yeah. There are wind chill charts that are out there that allow you to put those two factors together to see what the temperature would feel like. And we've kind of gotten lazy because every time you look at weather online, it tells you it feels like. So people don't look at those kind of charts. So the whole problem boils down to a thermodynamics problem. being able to balance heat loss. And you can see on the right-hand panel how the different ways you lose heat in the outdoors. When you sit down on that rock, you're going to lose, heat's going to transfer from your body temperature to the rock. When the wind blows, it's going to cause heat loss. Evaporation, how you become dehydrated, Steve, or other ones. So how do we combat that with our scouts? What should a scout be told? He's 11 years old. He's walked in the door. He's got an arrow of light on his shirt. What should we tell him before the first time we take him out in December?
Talk about layers.
Yeah, layers.
Layers,
Talk about layers.
fabrics. Yeah.
Hat on the head.
Hat on the head, yeah. And layers, and cotton is rotten, right? We tell them, I used to give the example all the time that the problem with cotton, because it holds on to water, and kids don't recognize that as a problem immediately. They say, well, what's the point of sweating? Sweating is to reduce your body temperature. So when you're wearing wet clothing, you're taking the heat away from your body, and that sort of thing help bring it, make it real for them. You know, you sweat to cool your body off, and when you're wearing wet clothing, you're basically doing the same function, but when it's cold out, that's not a good thing.
Right, it's the same thing as sitting on that ice cold rock or sitting in a pile of snow.
I used to ask them to show me the switch where you could go from summer and cotton to winter cotton. Where's the switch on the cotton to make it winter wise? And they'd look at me. So, like you guys are looking at me now.
Right.
Exactly, John. Exactly.
This, you
Where
know,
is
it
that
keeps you cool in the summertime. It keeps you cool in the wintertime too. I get news for that.
So John, so I'm not appropriately dressed if I wear cotton jeans, cotton shirt, and a cotton sweatshirt.
Oh, put the cotton socks on too.
Which
And maybe
Yeah,
maybe sneakers. Yeah, sneakers, not boots. Yeah, there you go.
yeah,
It's
I would
good
say
for
that
milling about in the basement. Yeah.
yeah, the show and tell side of things, right? I mean, having an older scout come in with a properly packed pack and go through it and say, this is the stuff you need. You know, maybe you need a double sleeping bag, and then they like having the fun with throwing a pair of wet jeans in the freezer and and throwing them out on the floor with a big clunk and saying, yeah, that's what you wear those cotton jeans, that's what it's going to be like. So,
Well, have one of each and do the comparison between the two scouts.
yeah.
Yeah, Art, that's a very good point about the possibility of a sleeping bag liner. We can't always assume that a kid's going to show up with a 0-degree bag, or that especially for the first trip.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we just, in that case there, we just suggest, whether it's a liner or just even said multiple bags inside each other.
don't forget the sleeping pad.
Sleeping pad, so critical.
Yeah.
There was something that was on some website, it might have been in a scouting one, that talked about not winter camping and don't using air mattresses or something. And we don't tend to use air mattresses a lot anyway, but kid didn't have, that's all he had was one of these self-inflating pads, but they saw that on the list of things not to bring, and he came with nothing. And it was like, and so it was, you need something, right? So you got to get something underneath them, and that's so important. So air insulates. I mean, I would say, yeah, even an air mattress is better than, certainly a whole lot better than nothing. But
right, I mean, the Thermarest pads seem to work pretty well in cold weather.
Well, the problem is that the youth and most adults, but a lot of adults don't recognize that the purpose of the sleeping pad is insulation and not comfort.
right.
We think of the sleeping pad as a comfort zone for lying on the ground, but it's a moisture and temperature barrier, and that's especially because you're compressing the bottom of your sleeping bag where you're making contact, and so the bag can't keep you warm. So you need something underneath you that's going to provide the insulating factor. And if you get that message across to the parents as well as the kids, they'll think about it differently. I remember, back in my day as a scout, reading in the scout handbook that you could, because we didn't have pads. We didn't.
Right, we had ground cloths. Bring a ground cloth.
Yeah, we just a ground cloth.
And that sucked the heat right out of our bodies.
Just coming out. But what the handbook taught you to do was to snip off the young pine boughs at the bottom of the tree. So you weren't inhibiting the tree's growth. You were nipping off the young pine boughs from the bottom part of the tree and stacking those up on top of the snow and then putting your ground cloth on top of those. And I did it once in a winter camping trip with solid snow and ice on the ground. And I couldn't believe it. I actually felt warmer, doing that. And
Yeah, it's very traditional to make a balsam mattress, but it has some negatives in the current camping environment.
yeah, we don't want kids walking around chopping branches off a tree.
Down.
A kid who's savvy about the woods and has experience will know, which pine boughs to go. But you can accomplish a similar thing just by piling up brush
Yes.
that's already on the ground.
Yep. Straw, stuff like that will work. Same principle. Yep. What about tents? Do you have troop tents, or do kids bring their own tent, or how do you deal with that?
We have troop tents in 304. After the pandemic, we've fallen a little bit out of habit in terms of the tenting disciplines, so we need to work our way back to that. We have 2-person tents, and no scouts sleep alone. We also have 3-person tents, so if there's an odd count, we do that. So that's kind of one rule we've had that feels like now at least on the last camp out, I needed to enforce that a little bit.
Yeah.
So in that sense, troop tents are good, because one scout showed up with, no joke, an 8-person tent that they bungled along for an hour, and then they needed my help and another adult to get it up.
Mm-hmm.
Another scout really wanted to sleep alone in a tent, and I said no. And I had brought an extra tent, like my personal tent. So I said no. You 2 scouts are going to be in here. So I do think there is, even though it's painful to deal with having the troop tents and making sure they're cared for the right way, it creates a uniformity where you can set clear guidelines that everybody understands. And these tents I think they're classified as 3-season, but we use them in the winter, and in my opinion, they work pretty well in the winter as well. Like
if you get a 3-season tent that has a rain fly that goes all the way down to the ground, it will work pretty much.
Yeah.
Well. The thing that worries me is somebody shows up, like an adult will show up with a tent where it has a little rain fly that covers maybe 25% of the surface area.
Yes.
And it's got the big picture windows. Yep.
The one with the big picture windows. Right?
Yeah.
Speaking of windows, of course, to encourage scout in the winter to leave a vent open so they don't wake up with a snowstorm inside their tent.
Yes, that, at least from during my time on the campouts I'm on, I'd like to just loop around and just lift up events here and there. Even though we do remind the scouts, it's an easy thing for me to do, and just keep on reminding them this is a good thing for you. You do not want to, as you say, create little icicles inside the tent, right? It's not going to kill you, but it's just,
right. It's not going to make it warmer by zipping up everything as tight as you can.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, we talked about personal gear, what the person wearing. We talked about the sleeping system, and we talked about the tent. So the question is, what happens when things start to go wrong? And that of course is hypothermia, a reduction in the body temperature below what's normal for that individual. And one of the surprising things I read this a couple of weeks ago was that 98.6 is not everybody's normal temperature, even though we say it is. There's actually quite a variability in that. So we have to be a little cautious on that one. It was in New England Journal of Medicine. Big thing is prevention. You can minimize the chances that a scout will become hypothermic. We've talked about it, dressing appropriately, keeping well hydrated, generate heat, eat, provide the source of the fuel for food for your body, and to know the limits. What can an individual do? Can we create an environment where if a scout is having a problem, they're going to admit it, not keep going until it becomes a crisis. In the winter, the buddy system is probably one of the most important things we can enforce. And we'll talk a little, because having a buddy watching you is critical. Very often a person's becoming hypothermic. They don't realize that there's danger. They're unaware of the danger. But having somebody watch them potentially can head that off. Of course, be aware of the weather. Sometimes that's out of your control, of course. Although leaders, I think Joe Curran, leaders are every year taking hazardous weather training. Is that
Hazardous weather training lasts for 2 years,
2 years?
but you are not a trained direct contact leader. That's Cub Master, Den Leader, Scout Master, Assistant Scout Master, what have you, if you do not have your hazardous weather training. So
Okay.
I was going to bring that up. Thank you for teeing me up so well.
Okay. And then, of course, which often happens, it seems like you go on a hike with a bunch of scouts, and they seem to think the objective is to get from point A to point B in the fastest time possible. It doesn't matter if there's a frozen waterfall. It doesn't matter if there's a bear sitting on the side of the path. They're going to keep going at high speed, and the result of that, of course, is sweating, getting their clothes wet, more heat loss than is acceptable.
It's something that I have noticed in my scouting career is kids want to get there so quick just so that they could sit around the campsite and be cold, right? So part of keeping them moving is taking your time on those trails so that you're not showing up at your campsite at 2 p.m. with nothing to do until dinner time.
Dinner, right. Very good point, Joe. Very good point. And some of the things about, how do you diagnose hypothermia? Well, one of the things people have always talked about is the ability to use your finger motion, to be able to to touch repeatedly your thumb with each of your 4 other fingers, and to be able to readily do that. The kid starts having trouble doing that. It's a sign that something's not right. The early symptoms: confusion, person starts to stumble, they mumble, apathy, and then as it gets more serious, shivering, loss of problem-solving ability, skin gets pale and cold, and then you get more dramatic shivering, and even the classic that thank God I've never seen. Person gets so they start slurred speech, potentially start taking the coat off because they think they're warm. When you get to these points now, this severe form of hypothermia, you have to be even gentle how you handle a patient, because you potentially could trigger an arrhythmia, heart condition, which could be very dangerous in the field. So what do you do? First step, recognize the problem. For clinical purposes, the stages of hypothermia are based on body temperature. When the person's core temperature goes down to 95, that's a severe hypothermia. Again, 98, 99 is where you should be. And when you start watching the temperature drop, that would be how you'd gauge the severity. So you want to get the victim in warm, dry clothes, get them out of the weather, tent, sleeping bag. Again, as that people have been pointing out, get a ground pad there, closed cell foam, something that's going to insulate them from the ground. At the early stages, the patient should be able to drink warm drinks, some food. You can use activity if they're with that to generate heat, some jumping jacks, a little running around. And once the person's rewarmed, probably you don't have to worry about evacuation. Anything you can do to help create heat or maintain heat is going to help the patient. So then, if you should get into the situation of moderate to severe hypothermia, again, critical that you handle the victim gently, get them out of the weather into dry clothes, insulate from the ground, multiple layers of insulation. If you have some heat packs or a hot water bottle, there is a technique called a hypothermia wrap. You get the person with a tarp and a blanket. You apply heat either using heat packs or hot water bottles in places where the blood vessels are close to the surface of the skin. And then you kind of wrap the person up like a burrito. Very effective technique. And again, if you get into the situation of severe hypothermia, you're going to be looking for medical care for this individual.
Think about with a blanket, we can plug into a cell phone battery and warm them up that way.
I'm sorry, John?
We should develop a blanket we can plug into like a cell phone battery or one of those battery recharger batteries, and it just provides heat and uses the battery.
It's kind of funny because there have been places like Cabela's are advertising things like heated gloves and heated boots that I think do just that. They plug into a battery. Yeah. Although I'm unaware of many outlets that you can use to plug in your electric blanket in the outdoors.
Well, you bring one of those. We'd have to design it and get it built, but you bring one of those USB batteries that you can recharge your phone with.
Yep.
And plug it into that.
Yeah, and those are light, not like trying to bring a heavy battery.
Right.
So yeah,
it would be an emergency thing. It wouldn't be like an everyday thing. But if you had it, it would be for a situation like that.
Right. Good idea. You get the patent out, will you?
Yeah. All right. I'm working on it. Everybody gets a cut because you were here when we came up with it.
That's great. Henrik, what's up?
No, I was just enjoying John's patent plans here for all millionaires within the week.
I'm 66. That plan's going nowhere, guy.
You are 26 at heart, 16 probably.
Oh, I'm still a kid. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. The other cold injury that we potentially run into is frost nip and frostbite. And the difference between that and hypothermia, of course, is this is the actual freezing of tissue in the body. It's usually classified this way: 3 stages. The first, the skin looks red or perhaps a waxy white, and if you just gently warm the person, there'll be no residual damage, and presumably you can just go on with your activities. Stage 2, now we're talking about things that are dangerous. There's a superficial freezing layers of the skin. You see swelling, you see fluid-filled blisters, and again, warm gently and get medical care. Stage 3 is freezing not only the skin and the underlying tissue. You want to cover with dry dressings and evacuate as soon as possible because this needs proper care. In spite of what people may have told you, you don't rub with snow, you don't break the blisters, you don't try to warm near a fire, and you do everything possible not to allow the tissue to refreeze. One of the things which a lot of the wilderness medicine people suggest is that you if you're in a situation where you are a significant distance away from medical care, you don't try to defrost. You get the person out even with the frozen tissue, because if you fix the free, it's liable to refreeze and actually do more damage than the initial frostbite. Hopefully, hopefully we will not run into this kind of thing in a scouting experience if we be prepared. Has anybody had a case of this happen on a trip?
Not maybe that first stage that there's been some redness and things right there. You know, you get sweaty hands. You have lovely winter gloves, but they're wet on the inside, and you're out there hiking, right? And for whatever reason, the scouts doesn't switch to this extra pair of gloves, or maybe they've already switched the extra pair of gloves because it happened already. But nothing else. I've had the blank stares, what you had, I think, on the previous slide, or 2 slides ago, in terms of the symptoms there. So that I've had actually my own son have that on one of those bitter cold. He was 11 years old, and what really comes to mind is at least the way I like to think of most of the campouts, but the cold weather campouts, is what can you do to predict the outcome, the successful outcome, right? It's and that sits in the preparation. And as an adult, you need to, well, encourage the scouts to be forthcoming if they have issues, keep on hydrating, those kind of things. But then B, you just as an adult have to overlay on top of the buddy system. Like it is your job to keep bothering the scouts.
Henrik, you
Ask
said
questions, see what kind of answers you get.
One, can I just break in again? Henrik, you said something very critical, which we missed when we're talking about equipping: redundancy, spare gloves, spare socks, even a spare hat. Because once they get wet, you want to have something dry to put on. So that's an important point to make, John.
Or they lose it.
Well, they lose. I mean, we had one. So we have a trip coming up now with the first year. We're going to Lonesome Lake. The scouts that have done winter camping and tested out their equipment, and they know what's happening, they're going to go up to Lonesome Lake Hut, which is unheated cabins, and then they're going to spend 2 nights up there and do some activities. The first year scouts, it's a little bit of practice for them to get used to equipment, not only the cold weather, but also microspikes and things. But there we go up, and little Alex is on this day hike. I'm with him and the other scouts. And of course, they start to play in the snow. He's 11 years old. They're all having fun and whatever. And we don't even get a quarter mile into the trail before his gloves are wet, and he's like, going to switch gloves. And he stored his extra gloves on the outside of his day pack, so they are also full of snow at this point. And the point there, I should have been maybe more on the ball there, but as an adult, you need to be in the insurance. You need to have a little bit of spare margin there to be able to. So he took my ridiculously 2 huge gloves to have them, right? But we need to, I think the adults need to overlay. You need to put the responsibility on them. You need to prepare with them extra socks and the plastic bags and all that good stuff if the boots break. A little bit of duct tape if you need to tape on the sole again, or whatever you need to do. But as an adult, you have to think through those things. Something like that happens almost every trip, that somebody prepared but then kind of squandered away their extra margin, so to speak. Yeah, so I do think that's important.
I would always bring just a Mylar sheet, those Mylar sheets that they like to give out at the end of the Boston Marathon. And because you can get those things very cheaply. They're small when they're new anyway, and packaged away, and you can shove 2 or 3 of them in your pack. And if a scout is in trouble, you can wrap it around them and put them in the sleeping bag, with the Mylar wrapped around them.
This is the foil that reflects the
heat back. It's Mylar with the reflective, coating on it that looks like foil, but it's just plastic, thin plastic, and the if they can get into the habit of doing that sort of thing, one of the bad habits that I think is the use of the hand warmers, because the kids play with them. They don't use them properly. They just play with them. And I mean, I'll see a kid holding the hand warmer, sort of tossing it around in the air. It's like, no, that's how you activate it. Then you put it inside your glove, and keep it there. But they're kids, and they clown around. They'll play with almost anything. But you're absolutely right, Henrik. The adults have to have the backup. The older scouts hopefully will be there to, to remind the younger kids that, hey, zip your coat up or put your gloves back on. But and hopefully the older kids will have the extra gear to take care of themselves. But
Right.
well, you talked about Lonesome Lake. We go up there every year, and we bring extra sleeping bags with us. Fortunately, it's a short 2-mile walk down the hill to the parking area.
Safety is close by. Yes, you're
Yeah,
right.
we were there. But even on a regular weekend camping trip, it's the new scout. I'll never forget when we went. I was the scoutmaster for only a few years, and we were overnighting in December in Squanto. And it was going to be a particularly cold night. I think it was going into the single digits, like 4 or 6 degrees or something overnight.
Mm.
And we had the proper gear, and even the young first year scouts, we made sure they were well prepared. But we'd been driving in our cars from Waltham all the way down to Plymouth to Squanto, and people had taken off their outer layers. And when we got to the campmaster's hut, we were out there in our shirt sleeves with, maybe a vest on. And the campmaster came out and he took one look at us. He said, "I don't think you people are properly prepared for the night. It's going to be really like, no, we just took our coats off because we were getting overheated in the car. But we did.
Oh, you city folk.
We did take the warning, and we went around and doubled up. We did bring extra sleeping bags with us, and we were double layering those bags on the little kids, because they don't generate a lot of heat by themselves. So we took extra precautions that night. I want to chime in and say we're just about at 9 o'clock. Ron, if you want to.
This is the end. There's a bunch of references and assistance stuff there.
Well, one thing,
Interesting. The field book has got really nice sections on winter camping, and that's it for me for the presentation.
Well, one thing you should remember too is have the kids tie stuff to themselves. They set their gloves down and walk away or whatever. In the Army, we tied everything, whether we were in the jungle or we were in the Arctic. Everything was tied to us so we wouldn't lose it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Those gloves are no good if there's 50 yards down the trail.
Or you set them down, right?
Yeah.
If you take them off, they go in your pocket, period.
Yeah. So I do think Squanto is another good place to go with first year scouts. Now sounds like it was a bitter cold night, but there the cars were probably nearby. So if you had to take somebody either home or to safety to a warm place, you have that backup. You can give the scouts the adventure and learn about their equipment, but you have a plan B that's just around the bend, which is jump in the cars.
Yeah,
and drive to safety.
Definitely something to put into the planning is the backup. You're right. Even when you don't have a hard shelter to go into, can you have a warming tent set up? Do you have a propane heater, that you can turn on to catch it before the kid gets hypothermic? Thank you so much, Ron. Always appreciate your presentations. Thanks for the participation, Henrik and others. And thank you, Mr. Judge, for joining us. It's such a thrill, a very pleasant surprise, and very happy to have you with us for a round table. We look forward to, I know your plate will be very full, and it'd be rare occasion to see you at a round table, but you're always welcome. And we look forward to saying hi in person at some point in the near future. I'm sorry I won't be at the arrangement that they have. I'm out of state at the moment, so I won't be at that event that they have set up, but you'll meet lots of our good colleagues, and welcome to the Spirit Adventure Council, or I should say welcome home, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for all your great work too. We're really lucky to have you, and don't hesitate to shoot me an email if you have ideas or concerns or anything I can do to help, because we're all in this together. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And with
Thank
that, I will wrap it up for the evening. Thank you all so much. Have happy holidays.
Yeah.
We'll
Take
see you next year.
Yeah.
Next year.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays.
All right.
Holidays.
Happy holidays.
Good night, everybody.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
Good night.